Okay, everybody, we're going to paint Cranberry Bog. Here's our sketch, as you remember. And this is the black and white sketch that I'm going to use as a base to do our painting. So, and it's pretty much full size, so let's just put it up here. And this is our photograph. Now, it's very interesting. As you remember, I went through the... Let's just get a telephoto shot of this. Bring this in so that you can see this. All right? Let's get it up here so it focuses in. It's not focusing very well. Let's see if we can get that to focus. It's going, wow, it's not focusing. Oh, that's interesting. Let's go back out here. Take this out. May not be focusing, but we'll do it anyway. Okay, so let me sketch this in. Well, we already sketched it in on the when I did the black and white drawing, but I'm going to sketch it again. So rather than sketch it on camera so that you can see this, I'm going to send this to you anyway, so we'll just sketch it in and I'll be back in front of you. Well, I suppose basically in sketching this thing in, we can probably just let you see what's going on here, but I'm just roughing this in right now. So, and we've got this sort of curve that goes up into the trees and comes down, and I'm going to actually move this over a bit and bring this down here so it's a little bit more of something going on here. Bring it over to this side. And again, these are pine trees, so we're going to end up characteristically just putting some shapes in here because we're going to paint this. I'm just going to put some basic shapes in here to follow. Character. Okay. I'm going to follow those down here. Now we've got... I'm going to come way over. We've got our pond. It goes about right like this. Here's the waterway. All of this stuff is going to be, all of this in here is going to be cranberries. So my pond is going to work across there, and I have the shore area over here. Roadway. This is basically a roadway. We've got, I think we got a piece of equipment. I didn't see it originally, but we got a piece of equipment over here, and we're going to just put something in there that looks like a piece of equipment. Nothing major. And we're going to end up having a reflection here of what's happening here, and this is going to be my dark area, or darker area. So that'll reflect down in here, and this is going to be my light area. And it's going to come back here, and let's just force that issue. We'll make it go back and up. And then cranberries. And then we get some flags. Let's just get these little flags in the water that are going to be little things that are here and there. Little flag, little cranberry flag that's here. Something that's over here. one that's up here, those little things that stick up. And the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to end up probably putting in, let me just move this over here so I can work with it a little bit better. Tree mass, and what I think I'm going to do over here in some of this tree mass is we're going to bring up, let's just bring up some more interesting, I know I did the sketch differently, but I'm going to bring up, let's do a couple of trees that are a little bit more interesting. Coming up here, maybe one falling this way, one coming up out of here, a little taller, and we'll just bring this all over here. And we'll make some trees go behind here too. I just want this to be a little bit more interesting back in that area. Throw maybe a rock or two in here too. One. Can be a bit boring. Alright, so throw some rocks back there, and we'll create the illusion. Maybe we'll put a big rock right in this area here to, we'll call it the shore, and we're going to end up, let's see if we can bring some shore over here, so we'll just make the painting a little bit more interesting. Okay, make the painting a little bit more interesting, bring up maybe a tree or two, I don't know. But that being said, we've got our sketch. Okay, so let's get started with this, and we're going to end up, it's interesting, I just went online and I just wanted to double check to see if there was anything out there that I saw on Google or YouTube in regard to painting cranberry bogs. And I found stuff that's up there, but it's mine. So you guys are going to have to rely on me. We're going to probably use this, which is our spray, misting spray bottle. And I'm going to try to keep this as noise-free as possible. We'll see what happens. So let's take in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the background. I'm going to lay in some sky first. So we'll just come in here and pick up some water and wet the paper down. I'm going to actually just do this a step at a time, so I'm going to wet this thing down to the water line, I guess, right down. We're just going to wet this up here. Well, this is going to be an experiment, so we'll see what happens. Experiment for me, experiment for you. We learn together. So let's thoroughly soak this. And as you can see, I've only wet it right down here to the edge of the water. And we'll take our 1-inch brush and start to look at how we want to handle a lot of this stuff. And if you remember, what I said is if I float in some sky first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that. I'm going to just take a little bit of my cobalt blue, mixed it. I had a little bit of yellow ochre in my brush, just a hair. Let me just show you what I'm doing. I'm mixing it nice and wet. Alright, so I just basically what I did is I took a little bit of this, put it in here, a little bit of this yellow ochre, put it in here, and I'm mixing up just a nice, interesting, cool-ish, grayish, wet area, wet sky, and I'm going to put it in. nice and light in the background. It's wet. Can't control it, guys. Don't even want to control it. Just going to wash over everything because it's going to be nice and light anyway. Okay. Now I'm adding a little bit of my opera to it. So if you don't have opera, you can add in a little bit of alizarin crimson. Same thing. You'll come up with, you're going to get a little bit grayer, a little bit cooler, a little bit grayer. And I'm going to drop in some spots here and there because I want to get some of these trees in the background. I want them to move back. Again, wet, watery, wet. Just to give you an indication of trees off in the distance. Nice and light. Okay, nice and light and wet. And remember, water into water, it's not going to, this water into water will not cause an issue with regard to any blossoms or blooms. What I did is I just made it a little bit bluer. Just dropping some of that water in here. Water into water. Water into water will not blossom. No blooms. What I'm doing is I'm just setting up the background. Trees off in the distance. I'll put trees in the front of it. But all I'm doing right now is just setting up some water. And then I'm going to come over here and wash out my brush. And I'm going to pick up some yellow, probably, in this case what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up some Naples yellow. Just a light coat of Naples yellow. Okay, see what I'm doing here? Let's just bring this over for you, okay? Taking a little bit of Naples yellow, which I have right here. Bringing it in. It's still wet. A little bit more pigment. Just want to get some warmth in there. And I'm going to put in some New Gamboge, which is a nice bright yellow. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to end up mixing a lot of greens. So I'm going to take my cerulean blue, New Gamboge, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make it less watery. I want more pigment now on this brush than water. So I'm mixing it, but then I'm taking the water out of the brush. I want to mix it so that it's very pigmenty, very little water. Take the water out of the brush, okay, and then start to put in. Now you can, let's just pull this down so you can see what's going on a little bit more, because I've got a wider sheet here. So what I'm doing is the pigment that's on the brush is, the brush is damp, but all right, we're going to pull the water out of the brush by taking the tissue and putting it against the heel of the brush. All right, the pigment that I'm working with right now is very pigmenty. There's not a lot of water in here. A lot of pigment. Okay, so we're doing some nice bright, I'm going to do some bright yellows, and then I'm going to do some dull yellows too, or dull greens, bright greens and dull greens. I just want this thing to have a variety of interesting colors back here. And the reason for that is because we want this thing to be lively as possible. So we're going to get some yellow ochre now, do the same thing. Again, here's my yellow ochre. I am mixing it up, taking the water out of the brush, so it's a damp brush, and we're just going to throw in some varieties of just interesting colors. This is all leafy stuff that's going to go on back there. Now I'm going to get something even darker. So let's go into my French ultramarine blue. Okay, take the water out of the brush, bring in some French ultramarine blue. The water's out of the brush. French ultramarine blue is added. All I did is I just took that and added it to my consistency that I'm working with, to try to get something that's a little bit deeper and darker. Not enough. We need something that's even darker. Let's mix that up with yellow ochre. I want to get it more olive colored. Cerulean blue, yellow ochre, cerulean blue. I'm sorry, cobalt blue. What did I say? Cerulean blue. Yellow ochre, cobalt blue. Okay, so you can see where I'm going with this thing. Cobalt blue, yellow ochre. I am not worried about dirtying the thing. I'm just mixing it right now. Okay, and we're going to go in here and do the same thing. This nice heavy pigment here and there. Okay. Dark around here, dark around there. Taking all the water, all the color out of my brush. Trying to clean the brush up so that it's nice, just clear water. Take the green out. I'm going to let this dry a bit, but what I'm actually going to do is come in here, because this is my area where I want to bring my road behind the trees, and this is areas, this is going to all come down, and we're going to end up cutting in some tree trunks. Okay, up in those areas. Stuff that's going to go on in the background. It's a little too wet still, but I can bring some of them in here. Okay. Now as this dries, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a smaller brush wet it. This brush has a little bit of an angle to it. Slant brush. Clear water. Just coming in here and just lightening certain areas up. Okay, we're just putting some, I guess, trunks, tree trunks up here. Okay, and we'll play around with some of these, but we're going to need to let that dry a bit. Okay, so let's move on. Let's take this area right here that's just below this, my photograph. Okay, we got this photograph right here. We're going to pull this out here. Alright, come around. Water. And this is coming off in this direction here. And we're going to come down here with something nice and light. This is just yellow ochre. Okay. We'll make that a little heavier. I'm picking up a little bit of my burnt sienna, mixing it in with my yellow ochre, making it a little bit darker. Just adding a touch of stuff here and there. Coming into the tree areas up here. And we'll make that down there. I want this to be a sharp edge. A little bit of water, just taking in and just coming in here with clean water, or as clean as I have on my palette, but let's just nice and clean. Okay, and then we're going to come in here with a little bit dark area. Start to darken some of this up here, because what I see is from the photograph we have some areas that are pretty dark. One there. Stuff that's happening here. Mixing a little bit of my burnt sienna and yellow ochre in with the green. Okay, and we're going to make this nice and dark pretty soon. Some of this is going to be a lot darker. Like right here, this is all going to be much darker. Alright, and now that this is dry, a little bit drier, we can create some of these tree lines up here that are more interesting. Because I'm just using the pigment, the stuff from the palette, it's drier. We're creating some tree-like characteristics, I guess is what we're doing. We want this to have the characteristic feel of needle trees. All right, and let's get a little bit more blue back in this area where I think some of these beautiful pine trees are back here. Create some interesting trees. Okay, so it's going to create all of our dark area back there first. And I want to take a little bit of a little time here to create what I would consider an interesting. Let's just do an interesting tree. Get a little bit of a brown, my brown mixed with blue. All right. So it's a little bit of cerulean blue, cobalt blue, and burnt sienna. And let's see if I can do this. Oh, my light's not good. Can't see what I'm doing. Let's even do it darker. Mix my burnt sienna with my French ultramarine blue here. There you go. What I'm doing is just creating some trees that are going off in the background there. Hopefully they'll work out, we'll see. Needle trees. Now, what I want to do is take a little bit of a, I want to get a little bit of scraping in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my blade and see if I can scrape this in. Scrape a tree over there. Once you do this, you're destroying the paper, so you can't go over it. But if you scrape a couple in, you don't want to do too many. Scrape a couple in, it might look pretty good. Okay, so let's move on here. So we have, looking at my photograph here, we've got the background in there. We want to do a nice feeling, a nice light feeling for the bank, where the water is going to meet it, and we get the bank's going to come all the way over here and up here. Got a rock that's there. We'll bring this bank down so it's coming down a little bit. All right, and we'll put a rock in there. Make it yeah, a little bit of cerulean blue, and that'll be it. Yeah, right here. Right, one here too. Maybe one here. Leave the light side. Okay. Come down. Bank. So that's our bank. Right, that's with a. Now this is going to be all water. So, if it's going to be all water, let's just come in here and take and wet it. This is just water. Now I know there's some tonal value to it, but essentially I'm just doing, just happens to be a little bit of crap on my brush, but we're just going to do the water right here. And we're going to float in it's going to be brownish, but I'm going to float in cobalt blue. Okay, and I'm going to come in here with some darker color by mixing that, because I want to reflect the stuff that's up here. All this green that's here. A little bit of cerulean blue. And the reflection is going to be vertical. And it's going to come right to the bank where the cranberries are. So I'm just taking in right to where the cranberries are. Okay. Now that that's in there, I want to create some highlights in the water. And I'm just doing that with plain water. I'm coming in here with plain water. And then what I'm going to do run some straight lines across. Okay, so it has a tendency to have some reflective quality to it. I'm going to probably have to darken that up a bit. Over here we're going to end up, because this bank is re-inflected in the water too as well. So let's get that same color reflecting back down. In there. Okay. And we got some of that. You know, actually we probably should take some of this out. Because I got this, probably want to get some of this out of here. Why? Because my reflection I want to get some of this stuff reflect this area up here, the light area. I want some of that to reflect back down here. So let's get some plain water in here. Fortunately, this is not too bad because we can work this. Okay. Okay, so we'll just, there's our base. And that's our water. We'll fix that in a minute if we have to. Cranberries. This is going to be an issue. First of all, what I want to do with cranberries is I want to put a tone in here that's an undertone, because a lot of the berries are, some of these people, I had to put another chip in. Evidently I ran out of room on that chip. Okay. Okay, what I did is I just sprayed that so I can get a little bit of an interesting spatter kind of look to it. Alright, so let me clean this because now we're going to get into the reds. And this is where the cranberries are going to be interesting because this is going to be this is probably the toughest part, and we want it to look like cranberries. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take and I'm going to wet this. And we're going to paint this starting with a little bit of cadmium orange, or a cadmium yellow, let's say. Let's start with cadmium yellow, because we want the tone underneath it to be nice and warm. Okay, so we're going to go cadmium yellow. Let's work around the rocks. Got a rock over here. And actually, to be honest with you, you can probably just come right down in here because this is all going to be land anyway. I'm going to have some shadow in here. It's going to be picked up. Okay, now what I'm going to do is turn it into, we're going to get a pyro red mixture in here. I'm going to start to get some reddish we want these to be berries. Here's what I'm doing. I mixed, first of all I took the cadmium, put it in there on the paper. Now I'm mixing pyro red. Pyro red, any red will do, but this is basically pyro red with orange, with the cadmium yellow. All right, and what we're going to do is start to put this in here. We want it to be soft, flowy. Red and red purple. Yeah. So I'm taking a little bit of my cadmium, my cadmium red, adding a little bit of my opera to it, a little bit of blue to it. And moving across. Now let's get some this is a bit red. Floating it in here. We want to create berries, the look of berries, the look of cranberries. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is to create this sort of reddish, not quite all really super red, but Some of the area is going to be reddish, really. Okay. Now we're going to really get more into the cobalt blue and alizarin crimson mixture, nice and dark, because we want to come off of here with a nice shadow. All of this is in shadow. Really? Alizarin crimson, cobalt blue, a lot of pigment. A lot of pigment, a lot of blue, alizarin crimson, nice heavy pigment. And if I'm correct, and I add a little bit more of my cerulean blue to this, make this area, some of this stuff even darker. Brown, green. So now I'm mixing. What I'm doing is I'm coming in here with my cerulean blue, coming over here and picking up my burnt sienna, mixing up this brown, adding a little bit of green to it. I want this nice and dark there, dark there. Okay, cool. Beautiful. Okay, now we got a nice rock right here. And we're going to put that in. We'll leave the top white. the rock over there. Something that's nice and dark. One there, one there. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to make, if I can do this, I'm going to add some twigs. I'm going to add some twigs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my small brush, get my rigger, come in here, and wash it out. Cat o' nine tails, stuff like that that's around the bogs. We'll just come in, pick up some Naples yellow, let's get some of the detail going over here. Just to break it up. Rocks don't need much, guys. Don't need much to define it. I mean, this is just a, you know, just the basic rocks. Yeah. Just a couple of them. Don't even need to define that one back there at all. Berries. Not much. Just enough to say berry. Very good. Very berry. Leave this alone. I may have to pull out a highlight or two. Let's go back over here and let's bring in some twigs. Twigs off the trees. And we can start to make this interesting. Finish this up. Look, a couple of interesting trees. I call this very good. I know. Pun intended. Yeah, it's these, you know, it's interesting to see, but you got throw another tree in there. Well, I don't like this. We're gonna have to fix that. Break it up more. Throw some color in there. Something in here. I don't think we need anything here, but just adding some vibrance to this whole thing. So I think that's about it. Okay. See, I just did something over here. Too white down here, I think, huh? Just soften that up a bit. We'll make those rocks a little bit heavier. Okay. I think that's about it. It'd be nice to get a nice sharp edge up there. I can do this. I don't know if I can do it. Let's get a piece of clean tissue. What I'll probably do is just let it dry and come back in. Let's see. Okay. Let's get some of that cranberry stuff in the background there. Now, I wonder if I can just take out, let me see if I can get a little bit of white out of here. Little flag. Lift it. So, I suppose we could let it dry and glaze it, but I think we've got a sort of an interesting kind of piece of work. This goes up here. You can see this whole thing. Look at, oh, you're not seeing the whole thing. Oh. I don't think I can back it out any more than that. Oh yeah, oh look at, I had it very close. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so there you are. So, do we do it? Oh, do we do it? Do we do it? Do it? Do it? Do it? Just a little bit of glaze over that. Well, make it a little bit better, a little bit redder. Okay, I think I'm going to call that. I don't want to. I'm going to let it go, watch it, and then if we have to do anything about it, we'll work at it later, but that's it for now, and thank you very much. Appreciate you being with me. Talk to you soon. Well, I only saw one thing that I need to deal with, and that is that this stuff here is, to me, too dark. I think, or not as vibrant. I wanted to make it a little bit more vibrant. So, what I've done is I've changed my shadow to a combination of cerulean blue and opera. I wanted that nice sort of vibrant look for the shadow. So it's a combination of cerulean blue and opera. And it gives me a not as dirty a look, I guess, is what I'm sort of looking for. Keeps it more in the family of a shadow against the nice vibrancy of the Cranberry Bog. So I'm just putting that in right now, and everything else doesn't look too bad. I think it's doable, workable, and certainly passable. Let me crisp that up. Put a couple of little dots here and there that sort of make it look more appropriate, I guess, for cranberry bogs. A few spots, nothing major. I don't want to get to the point where I'm seeing a lot of dots, because that's not really what we want to do. And I'm just going to take this, make this a little bit darker here, and I'm going to make the reflections here a little bit darker. As well. Okay. I'm using my angle brush to do that, by the way. And I want to make something that's nice and dark. I'm going to bring this over. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. That's about it. That gives me the general feeling that I want. So it looks good to me, and that's what we're going to do. We're just going to sign this off right now, and let it go from here. Oh. Now you hear that? That's what I don't want. That's what. And what I'm doing is I'm just taking my pencil here, my watercolor pencil, and just giving this some just some character, I guess is what I'm sort of suggesting here. A little darker up there. You know, it's nice to get away from this stuff, but when you get away from it, you can see it a lot better. And when you see it a lot better, you get a better feel for the whole thing. Okay. One other little thing here. And I'm sorry for the noise back there again, but I could do this with I can actually do this with my my brush, but make life easy so that we can move on in this thing. I'm just going to end up creating a little bit more interest in here. Some scattered tall grass. Nothing major. It's a way to put in, actually watercolor pencils are good because it's a way to put in some lights after the fact, you know. I mean, if I wanted this just sort of this area right here, for instance, a little bit more lighter. I mean, it's just, you know, and again, it's without, it's using watercolor in its purest media, but it's also without attached to dry. That's wet. That's why I was doing that. Without masking. That's the whole idea. I mean, why mask? If you want to clean something up, you can do it. Yeah. Cool. It creates much more interest. This is coming down this way, goes over a little bit. Lovely. Done. All right, let's sign it. We'll sign it over here. How's that? Okay. So that's it for today. Thanks for being with me. Have a lot of fun painting this. And painting other things too as well. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.